Up next, Authentically Detroit returns from hiatus with some updates and conversations we know you'll want to hear. Keep it locked. Authentically Detroit starts after these messages.
Hey, it's Stephen Henderson from WDET and Bridge Detroit. If you love listening to Orlando and Donna's incisive interviews and conversations on the Authentically Detroit podcast, I hope you'll also listen to the podcast I host, Detroit Today from WDET on Detroit's NPR station. Detroit Today is a daily podcast where I talk with community leaders, elected officials, and residents of Detroit, the region, and the state about politics and the values that animate our communities. Listen to Detroit Today every day on your favorite podcast app.
Hey, y'all, it's Orlando. We just want to let you know that the views and opinions expressed during this podcast episode are those of the co-hosts and guests and not their sponsoring institutions. Now, let's start the show. Hello, Detroit and the world. Welcome to another episode of Authentically Detroit, broadcasting live from the Deep Network studios inside of the Stoudamire Wellness Hub. We are a content partner to bridgedetroit.com. I'm Orlando Bailey.
And I'm Donna Givens-Davidson.
Thank you for listening in and supporting our efforts to build a platform of authentic voices for real people in the city of Detroit. We want you to like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on all platforms. And today is just Donna and I with some updates and conversations that we know that you've been wondering about. You've probably been waiting to hear from us on some issues in the city and around the city and some right here at home. But we back. Hi, Donna Givens-Davidson.
Hey, Orlando.
I missed you.
I missed you too. You know that, right? I was like, wow, we haven't talked in a while.
It's been a minute. It's been a lot going on,
right.
And I want us to, spend some time, I guess today, just sort of sharing with our listeners a little bit of a level set of just, where we are and where we have been, because it has been a while. Life and trauma and some of everything has been happening that has prevented us from being able to come together on Mondays, but we're back. But I think, in the spirit of the show, in the spirit of authenticity, I think it is almost required that we just let folks know what's been going on with us. So how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. As you know, it's been a very challenging past couple of weeks. I don't know if it's easy to explain how challenging. On August 19th, somebody got in their pickup, not necessarily their pickup truck. I'm hearing maybe it's not theirs, but in a pickup truck, and drove around our parking lot, parked, took a look, aimed the car, backed up, moved forward, backed up, moved forward, backed up, and then accelerated into the main entrance of our building. There were people inside, and that was one of the most devastating things that happens. And I know people think it's just a building, but it's not. Mm-hmm. The Stoudamire has been a sanctuary for our community and for our staff. We had 3 children of staff, siblings of one staff, and a child of another staff, a 4-year-old little girl in a tutu, twirling through the air, feeling carefree and safe in our space. We had a staff member on his phone looking outside and observing the whole thing and wondering what was going on, looking this man in the eyes as he accelerated into the building. And then we had another staff member, although we had so-called security here, they did observe some things, but the first person on the scene about 2 minutes later, and we have surveillance video documenting all of this, was a staff member who disarmed this person because he was armed with a pellet gun and a semi-automatic and extra ammunition, and held him to the ground while we waited 15 to 20 minutes for the police to arrive from less than half a mile away from our building.
Because the 5th precinct is literally down the street on Connor. Yeah.
And then, when the police came, he was not handcuffed. He was not treated like a criminal. He was treated like an injured party and guided to sit in the EMS truck, taken to the hospital, again, not handcuffed, and eventually processed. So I received a phone call from Police Chief White, and I received a phone call the next day from the deputy mayor. Both of them reassuring me that they were taking this very seriously and they were looking into it. I received a phone call from the FBI, domestic terrorism unit, also explaining we're looking into this seriously. But instead what happened is the very next day, while I was still trying to focus on what happened, I get a phone call from a reporter who says, we're trying to do the story, but the police are saying we think this is just reckless driving, a man who woke up and had a bad day because he had damaged some other properties. And the man was white. This is a primarily Black community and a community center filled with Black people. And a lot of people who were inside of the Stoudamire at the time believed it was racial targeting. And it may not have been, but it was not an accident. And if anybody who sees the 1.5-minute video of this man driving through our parking lot, circling the parking lot, aiming his car, going back and forth, and driving very deliberately into the building, if you believe that that's what drunk driving looks like, then I'm just confused because he hit nothing else in the entire parking lot except for our building head on going full speed. So one thing that has made me conscious of is that when there is a crime that could have cost people their lives and cost this building its stature as a safe place, we're rebuilding it, But at that moment in time, all I could think of is that this sanctuary that we're trying to build was threatened. Less than a year ago, we had an event here, and the whole building was full of people, and there was this young woman who looked up and she said, "Is this Wakanda?" Yes, under attack. It's my safe space. There's no longer this feeling of, protection that we used to have. Now we are paying security to, monitor our traffic coming in here. We're having to enter through the front door. We've boarded up that site and we're recovering. We now have electricity back in our atrium, and residents and partners have come in and said, we're not scared away. The staff have come and said, we're not scared away. They're even bringing their children back, but that was a process. The final thing I want to say about this whole thing is that several people have asked me, why did he choose you? And it makes me think about a woman who has been assaulted, having to go to the police and explain her injury and what's wrong, and having somebody say, what did you do to lead him on? One of the newscasters even said, maybe he knew somebody in the building who made him angry, as though this is an explanation. I don't know why we were chosen. I know we were chosen, but having to try to explain or justify the actions of somebody who came in and assaulted us feels like a lot. And
it's an undue weight for you to try to carry. That's not your job.
So I'm spending my time racking my brain. What could I have done? Who did what? It's hard. And the fact that on Authentically Detroit, I speak my mind and speak truth to power. One of the things made me question was, is it my big mouth? Did I say something that made somebody so angry that they would come here and harm us? So that's what I've been dealing with. And I think it actually feels like a level of grief that may not make sense to anybody who's not here. And then the final thing is then you see people. I went to the, African World Festival, and there's some people I saw who looked afraid to speak to me. Almost, like when you have cancer, you have a disease and people aren't sure what to say, so they just don't want to talk at all. And I experienced all of these emotions, and I think at the end of the day, I will have even more compassion for people who've experienced crimes or people who have expressed, I have this disease, because I will understand that human nature is human nature, and people want to make things make sense, right? And also people want to believe that bad things can't happen to them. And so the way that you can sometimes do that is try to figure out why it happened to you. Nobody asks anybody who's walking down a campus why somebody climbed up on a bell tower and started shooting at people. Why did they choose you? You don't ask people that. Don't ask why people chose this building, because I don't know. All I know is it's a place of love. It is a place where people come in here and feel good, and they're treated well every single time they come in here. And so for somebody to want to desecrate that is really horrible.
Yeah, and I want to thank everybody who has been reaching out. I got a flurry of messages. This attack happened while I was away in New York City, and Donna, you called me right away. You talked about physical sanctuary. I would also add to that some language that I got around emotional sanctuary as well. And I think this place, a place that I've been attached to at the hip since I was 11 years old, for someone to attack it and want to destroy it, it really jacked me up on the inside. It's still hard for me to even talk about and even look at the surveillance video, because one of the things about how Eastside Community Network is situated off of Connor, you have to know you want to come here, right? This isn't a building that you just sort of happen into.
Yeah, how many times have we had to guide an Uber driver in? Okay, look across the street.
This isn't a building that you just happen to come across. This is a building that you have to be deliberately looking for and wanting to go to, and let alone knowing that the main entrance is not in the front of the building, but in the back. So there's a long driveway that one has to drive to get to the back.
Well, he actually turned right when he pulled into the parking lot and drove around the front of the building into the back. So he didn't, this was very deliberate driving. We have surveillance from the front and the back. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when we talk about intentionality, for me, y'all, there's no question in my mind. But I want to say that, Black folks on the East Side, number one, we are so familial, right? When I was working here, I got to work with residents that grew up knowing me and grew up knowing my family. And when we gathered here, it was family, right? And so I feel like it's been a breach on the family structure that we've been building for almost 40 years here at ECN. And I take it personally, and it hurts. It hurts. And so I came back from New York, and one of the first things I did was just come and sit in the parking lot and cry and pray, because it's like, this is a sanctuary that needs to be protected, and we don't want it compromised to the point where people don't feel safe coming here, and people no longer want to come and take advantages of the services here. As someone who grew up here, as someone who learned here, as someone who matured here, as someone who was taught here, right? It's egregious, it's hurtful, and it's traumatic.
Right.
And I think adding on another layer of trauma while trying to question those of us who are afflicted about the motives of somebody we don't know. We don't know this. Where's Keke Palmer? I hate to say it. I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I don't know who this man is. We don't know who this man is, what he was on, or what his motives were. But what we know was it wasn't an accident. We can see that. And there were children in here. There were staff people in here. And so to the extent where those of you who are concerned, those of you who may or may not have questioned the legitimacy of the claims coming out of this organization and how we interpreted what this was, there you have it. I hope the record is set straight from both Donna and from a former staff person, now board member here at ECN. It's personal to us.
Yeah,
it is.
So just a couple more things. For the past few years, we've been trying to figure out how to get rid of that wrought iron fence, which serves as a barrier between us and the community for years.
For more than a couple years.
Right.
I was still a staff person when we
that's
talked
true.
about that.
Well, pandemic years don't make any sense to me, but you're right. For at least 5 years, we've been having that conversation. And maybe even more than that, but we've been having it seriously for at least 5 years. I went to an event I was on this planning group at U of D Mercy, and they were saying, how can we open the university up? How can we be more connected to the community? And I was like, remove your fence. And like, okay, that's off the table. And so I'm very judgmental, and then I drive back to ECN and drive through our fence, and I'm like, yikes. I'm one of those, right? We're afraid of the community and we don't ever want to communicate fear. We've had staff meetings where people have said, what can we do? We need a panic room in this building. We need things to make ourselves feel safe. And I say, we have feel nothing but fear itself. Let's not fear our neighbors. We live in a loving community. All of those conversations have been had. I eventually agreed, let's have a security guard here on low days when there's low occupancy, when there's not a lot of staff, so the staff are not so vulnerable in evenings and on weekends. But it took a lot because I never wanted to communicate to the community that we don't trust you, that we don't believe in you. I don't believe that bars make you safe. I don't believe any of those things happen. I believe that the way to be safest is for us to show love and give love and trust people, because people like to live up to your trust. And so we've never had an incident, ever. And then about 7 months ago, we even stopped leaving the front of our building locked. So you don't have to press a button to have the gate open to come in. When we're here, you can just drive right in, because that felt more welcoming. Even as we're raising money to remove that fence, move it to the rear of the building, and to open the doors more efficiently so that we can have control of entry, but you don't have to drive through a gate. And the other thing is the wrought iron fence prevents people from riding their bikes in easily or walking in easily. Lord knows if you're in a wheelchair,
walking in or out,
walking in or out, getting out is really hard,
yeah,
right?
because there's no pedestrian entry. Right. It's just for a car.
Right. Mm-hmm. So unless you are as heavy as a car and there are no human beings who are, you're not going to be able to get out unless somebody buzzes you out and
Shout
sees
out to
you.
Sam Robinson at Axios. Couldn't get out.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that. And he actually came back and covered our story. Did a really nice job, too. But I do want to shout out a couple of people. So anyway, this is what I want to say. I didn't want us to change who we are because of who he is. Mm-hmm. The threat is that you overreact and you change your culture and your beliefs about what community is. And I was really, really scared.
He is not the community.
Will people still accept this? So the Monday following that event, we have a class, Can There Be Race Equity in Detroit? And I laid in bed. I was like, I don't even want to go to work. I don't want to do this class. I was like really in my feelings and everything like that. And I was like, fine, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this class. I'm going to pull myself together, because Angela was like, what should we do? We have food coming. Do we just want to have dinner? And I was like, no, I'm going to come and see who shows up. Because at this point, everybody's walking right by this door where everything's falling apart and everybody's aware of what happened. And I walked in, and when we were done, the room was standing room only. And I talked to people. I said, what do you think? Do you feel safe here? Yes. We're not going away. And that moved me more than words can express. They stayed. They said, we are not going to change. This is who we are. This is our community. We're not letting anybody change it. But I had staff in the building also. And the very next day, we had a full staff meeting. And I was like, oh, so we told staff, you're too traumatized. You don't have to come to work. Do what you need to do. And again, standing room only. Everybody showed up and everybody committed. We're going to make this work. We're going to stay here. We're going to stand together. He's not going to tear us apart. And so we've continued operating, even understanding that, that's been difficult. The other thing is there are some people who have been outstanding in terms of their commitment and support of us. I want to thank them. I want to thank Chase Cantrell, who immediately made his birthday fundraiser about contributing to our organization and helping us heal. And if I leave anybody out, I'm really, 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 really sorry. I want to thank the Kresge Foundation, the Skillman Foundation for reaching out and saying, how can we support what you're doing? I want to thank every single donor, including those who wish to remain anonymous, for contributing to the Stoudamire Safety Fund. And so far, we've raised almost, about $20,000 towards repairing the damage, which is tremendous, right? And I also want to thank people like Rachel Lutz, who reached out and said, hey, let's find some talent. She said, what can I do? And I said, you know what? Rachel's got one of these, friends list that goes on forever. And I said, I need somebody to help us figure out how to promote safety and not have this place look like a fortress, because I don't, again, want to look like the Federal Home Loan Bank or whatever. I don't want to have the appearance even of a moat, but I also want us to be safe. And so she reached out on Facebook, and eventually Mara McDonald from Channel 4 came. She and the photographer who was with her looked at the surveillance video, took pictures of it. This is after I think Fox 2 had looked at the surveillance video the day before, but they looked at it. Sam Robinson came in from Axios and did the same thing. But Mara actually came with a concept that I thought was really cool, and that is, how about you have some students from Lawrence Tech do a design competition, School of Architecture do a design competition, and come up with some concepts for how you can redo this space when you're done. And I was like, wow, that's a great idea. So we're going to replace the doors probably before there is a design competition. But I want to open it, not just to students, to Lawrence Tech. We're going to be working with some friends in the community to create a design competition so that people inside of our community can help us re-envision what the front of our building looks like or the main entrance looks like. If you've been here, you know that there's a large grassy area and about 80 feet from the sidewalk to the vestibule. And so in my mind, we're going to make a peace patio with a pergola over it and chairs and seats, and we're just going to make it beautiful while also making it safe using whatever type of technology we can use that is non-intrusive but also protective. But when somebody else says danger, we say peace. It's September 11th, and it's significant that we're having this conversation today because after September 11th, the way we responded as a nation was with fear, and now we take off our shoes in airports and we do other things that are supposed to make us feel more safe. And sometimes I wonder, is this overkill that we allow one person's incident to change our entire culture? And it's not something I wanted for this organization, not on the east side of Detroit, not in a community that's always having to defend itself against accusations of being ghetto and threatening and dangerous and unsafe. And, you know, even despite the fact that there really is not a lot of crime of that nature in this immediate vicinity, this is a relatively safe area if you look at the stats. But the stigma remains and the fear of our neighbor remains. And then we start thinking of the people in our community as being violent and bad and, you know, and unpredictable. But the reality is the opposite. We've got really, really, really good people in our community, the best people in our community. There's nobody better than the best person on the east side of Detroit. And I hope that people understand that sometimes you can't tear apart a people who are so strong because we've weathered so many things over here. This person can't really change things. And that's what I tell myself to lift myself back up. And I know you've experienced it because you've lived here all of your life. I haven't been here as long as you, but I still love the East Side. I'm going to fight for her, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Always, always find myself in willing and ready position. You know, it's interesting that, you know, as a leader, you have to sort of operate in this duality that I think a lot of people don't recognize, but need to recognize so that they can provide grace for it. As a leader, you got to process what is actually happening to the people inside of the organization and the organization, process your own trauma, right? While still doing your best to chart a way forward and trying to put in guardrails around. Well, no, we're not going to fortify ourselves like the Federal Reserve Bank. We're still going to be family in the midst of having to deal with, we got the insurance claim, and we got to make sure this is boarding, we got to make sure it's secure. Like that's a lot. And so I can't imagine what it's like to carry all of it, but grace is required.
And I don't have to carry all of it, and that's the great thing about ECN is that we have outstanding leaders who are willing to carry it with me. This is not a one-woman show by any means. I don't know everything that's going on here, and I don't have to do all the work. Strangely, it was a week a lot of people were on vacations, though, so there was a little period of time when it was just me, but that was okay because you just earned the vacation. But I don't have to carry it alone. And quite frankly, there were people who did step up to help. So for every person who looked away, for every person who asked me questions that made me feel like I had to defend myself, there really were people who stepped up in a big way and were just there. And I want to acknowledge those people as well, because sometimes it gets easy not to. We have had a very friendly relationship with most press. If you ask us questions about what's going on in the community, we answer them. And then we got to the point where it's like, am I having to defend my integrity to you? I'm telling somebody something and they're saying, we can't publish this unless we have a first person account that proves what you're saying because the police are saying something different. And it's like, whoa, now I'm feeling like my word is no longer, that my integrity was also placed in question. I think that Police Chief White did a really good job, right? I think that Deputy Mayor, I can't think of his name.
Todd Bettison
did a really good job of trying to support me. But a lot of the officers and commanders in between them were not necessarily being supportive. It felt like they were minimizing what happened. And the initial charges were destruction of a building, malicious destruction of a building under $20,000. And to repair what was broken is going to be at least $100,000. So it was kind of shocking to me that rather than inspect and evaluate, how could you think that was under $20,000? So what we ended up doing was we retained former U.S. Attorney Jeff Collins to be our representative and to interface with the prosecutor's office now, because it's beyond the police and others, to ensure that there's a proper analysis of what's happening and that we are being well represented. And so, now I'm backing off. We've got somebody handling the insurance. Right. And, we've got to get back to the business of ECN.
That's right. Onward and upward. Let's do it. Yeah. It's been interesting, around that same time, I got word that a close relative of mine died of suicide. And she was, inching into her elder years, and left a couple of notes around what she was feeling. And it's interesting because my family knows how to do death, right? When someone gets older or someone gets sick and die, we know how to do that. When someone is murdered, we even know how to do that, right? Someone in an accident. But we've never been confronted with this kind of challenge in trauma. And it came at a time that culminated so many other things that I have been dealing with and haven't really been able to talk about. And it just completely took me out. It was the thief of my joy, my productivity, and strength to really just, do all that I feel that I'm called to do. So my body, my spirit, my mind was grieved and vexed and confused and angry and traumatized. And so I had to, figure out how to facilitate her wishes in the notes that she left. That fell on me. And carrying out, the small memorial service that wasn't really a memorial service because she didn't want that also, fell on me. So processing these feelings of trauma, confusion, and if I'm being honest, anger, have been difficult because, one of the things that I know and believe that I'm gifted at, is being able to see people and really see them. And so this kind of thing makes you look retrospectively within oneself and say, how didn't you see that? You know what I mean? And we know that those kinds of feelings and actions have no particular look, right? It has no particular conversation. But it doesn't erase the fact that you still go in yourself and question that. At the same time, my family have been dealing with the news of a prostate cancer diagnosis for my father, an aggressive form of prostate cancer. And being the kid who always told everybody what to do, of course, he solely elected me to handle all of that, and to, be at the doctor's appointments, and to make sure that if anything happened, if he should no longer be with us, that all of that documentation and all of that stuff is squared away, and going to the appointments, and then scheduling the surgery, and making sure that, he was recuperating, had everything he needed after the surgery, and meals, and, all of those things. And watching my dad confront his mortality in that way and become vulnerable in a space, and in a space where he's never had to be that vulnerable. He's never had to be that emotional. He never had to be that open. Was difficult to watch, right? It was difficult to watch him want to cry, but didn't know how. And, he got the news, and then I was elected to tell everybody else. He couldn't even tell his children. And so there's that. And then we carry so much in both hands, because when we got that notice, I was on television every day trying to bring joy to Detroiters on Live in the D, and couldn't say anything about it. This news and surgery, and this news about my cousin, and then I had to go on stage and interview Nicole Hannah-Jones, which is a monumental moment for me in my career. Just holding all of these things at the same time, it really became a lot. And so I missed some things, right? We missed doing this podcast to our good friend Chase Cantrell. I missed his birthday. And I sent him my love, and he knows. And I missed a few other things. And so when I'm appreciative of, finally, just around my birthday, I had already scheduled time off. I am appreciative of the grace that Bridge Detroit, Authentically Detroit, all of my other obligations and friends extended to me in this crazy time. And also in this process, I was dealing with some health challenges myself. Swollen lymph nodes that would not go away, so tender, and I had to get x-rays. They are benign. The swelling has finally gone away, but it was some cause for concern. I still have some other things that I gotta get checked out that are concerning to my primary care physician, and I'm hoping that it's nothing to be alarmed about. But it's been a crazy few months.
It's upsetting because I'm hearing this, except for the suicide, at the same time as everybody else. I mean, I knew about the lymph nodes, and I've been worried about you. And I keep telling Kevin, I'm worried about Orlando. I'm worried about Orlando. Something's going on.
It's been a lot.
And so, but I'm hearing, and I'm like, wow, just as you felt about your cousin, I should have known. I feel like I should have known more. And, I don't know how to pry or ask, but I could see it. I have some questions about your relative. And do you feel a sense of guilt?
No. That emotion tried to take over. And I had to release it. The other thing that I had to come to is I had to come to the understanding that there is really no understanding this. And that is antithetical to how my brain works, right? There's a way that things work. We're Virgos, right? We can figure it out, right? But I realized for now, and at this juncture in time, that there is no understanding that. I can't understand it. And I have decided to release myself from trying to understand it. Right? There's a old hymn that we used to sing in the Baptist church. By and by, some things come, some revelation, some understanding come in the by and by, and I am good with that. Her and my mother were very, very close. They talked every day, and so
your poor mom.
My mother didn't even. I don't think my mother believed it. I didn't see my mom cry until we spread her ashes in the Detroit River because, you know, something like this really truly is unbelievable. And the feelings that she had, especially around anger, because that's her girl. Every day they talked.
Oh my goodness.
And so,
but for your mom to have to deal with that and your dad.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So it's been a lot. My dad, I honored my word to him. He didn't want it to be known. He didn't tell his parents until after he came out of the surgery.
How's he doing?
I'm happy to report that the imaging is still coming back clear. We're a few weeks out from the surgery. The doctor said that they got it all and they caught it early. Some, you know, other more personal things have happened since then that I don't want to, you know, because I got permission to talk about this. I don't know if I could talk about everything, but it's been a journey, and he's doing good. The thing that I'm happiest about most is that I don't got to bring him meals no more. He can get in his car. He could drive again. So I'm good, because that whole figuring out what he was going to eat every day, I'm like, we too young for this. You too young for this. We not about to start this, right? And I think he is enjoying his independence again. And, you know, he'll be back to work soon. Hopefully he's ready to go back to work. He ain't playing. So, yeah.
Well, you know, I think about when I think about your dad and the impact of you seeing him, you know, weak. And I think about this need for men, and especially for Black men, to appear invulnerable, to project strength even when they're feeling weak. And sometimes it doesn't always come out the right way. But then the walls come down and you see, wait a minute, he's hurting. He's human like
He's
me.
human. Mm-hmm.
And he's not this indomitable strength. And, you know, we're kind of dealing with that with my uncle, who's always been the strength of our family. And also very recently, he and my aunt, his wife, entered into an assisted living facility with my other aunt, who has since passed away.
Yeah.
And my uncle was like the backbone of our family growing up. He was the one, I mean, if you needed anything done, Ronald was the one to do it. He took care of all 5 of his kids, anything they needed. If they needed flooring done, whatever, he was always strong, playing golf. He was in his 80s, still working as a deacon at Holy Redeemer Church, marrying people and burying people. And my aunt finally got him to retire. And so
from deaconhood.
She was like, listen, are you ever going to spend time with me? And he is, but he's no longer, you know, the strong one. You know, and when you have strong people like that in your family, sometimes they get on your nerves because they have this power thing going on and you can't move them. But then when they're no longer there, then it's scary because you don't even understand the extent to which you have depended on their strength. Even when you resented that strength, you depended on that strength because, you know, that's how we are as a people, right?
Ooh, that is so good what you just said. Because as someone who can always find the language to express himself, right, and someone with a different kind of consciousness, dealing with sometimes what I feel like is an emotionally unavailable parent and dad frustrates the heck out of me sometimes. And so there were times where you resent that invulnerability and that strength, right? But when it is compromised, when it is weakened, you do realize how much you rely on it, and how much of a gap it will leave if it's not there.
And I think you also realize how much he relies on you.
That part.
And how much he respects you because you're the one he chose to take the baton when he was not strong enough to hold it. And there's no other way to show a father's love for his son than to say, take the baton, son, because I can't hold this right now. And I'm trying to make you cry, Orlando. I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
I want to keep talking to you, work through this. But I think about, you know, I got this book. I don't know if you know Rose Hackman. She's a journalist, and she has written a book, Emotional Labor, The Invisible Work, Shaping Our Lives and How to Claim Our Power. And I think of you as an emotional laborer. You are a person who carries people's emotions and really takes care of people. You are an emotional caretaker, and that puts a big burden on you because you always have to be happy. You always show up positive. You always show up no matter how you're feeling. You show up in that way, and you have to maintain this aura of whatever. And sometimes you need someone to carry your water. Is it hard for you to ask for help?
Yeah, it is. It is because when one feels like they're in a position where you got to fill everybody else's cup, right? There is a small elect group of folks that you can rely on. And Donna, you're one of those people. But in this particular situation with my father, I was asked.
It was personal, and you had to hold it.
I had to hold it.
Yeah.
I had to hold it.
Yeah, well, I could tell you were holding something. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was big because, you were on air and then whatever, you were yourself. But as soon as those mics went off, you were just like shut down into another mode, and there's another Orlando mode. And I've been just super worried about that. But I was thinking about that, in terms of emotional labor, about those of us who have to, you talked about, as a leader, having to make sure everybody's okay. And how do you bring your own feelings in? You want to always project strength, even when you're feeling weak, right? Because if you don't project strength, other people are going to feel vulnerable. It's like when you're dead, so you always have to have that. But at the same time, you're not always feeling strong. And that's that balance. And it's knowing how and learning eventually over time how to be better at getting help. And I still apologize. Like if I need something, I'm sorry for asking. I'm sorry. Nobody... I feel guilty asking anybody to carry anything that I'm feeling. And I realize it's partly just, I don't know if it's a Virgo nature, but from the time I was a small child, when I saw other people cry, I tried to make sure everybody was okay. and a lot of times knew how to take care of other people's feelings better than I knew how to take care of my own. And understood other people's feelings better than I understood my own. I might not know I'm hurt about something until a week later because I'm so busy feeling everybody else's pain. And it kind of makes me think of the truth that our strengths are also our weaknesses. And it's a strength when your capacity for empathy and caring and taking care of others is helping to be a healing force. And it's a weakness when your strength is so busy being used to heal other people that it's not available to you. How do you balance that?
Well, I think going inward, I don't self-medicate. I don't do, any of that. Y'all know what that means. But just going inward and allowing yourself time. I think for somebody like me, solitude has become the gift to myself because I don't get a lot of it. You and I, what we do, how we communicate, our work and our mission and our calling is very public. And we're two very public people. We're always around people. People always want to be around us.
You more than me.
Really me more than you. And so carving out space for solitude to sort of be in my space and to feel what I need to feel, cry, pick up the phone and call somebody to pray with me. When I'm in that space, I value that. And that is something that I've been carrying with me. I took some time off. I went to Chicago and got lost in Chicago for a few days, just roaming by myself, just, solitary in Chicago, just taking it in, and went to Fort Lauderdale and, did the same thing. And that gift.
What was the weather like in Fort Lauderdale?
Oh, man, I tried to bring some sun back. It was like 90-some degrees every day.
It wasn't storming, though?
No, it did not storm. There was like a rumble of thunder. Peep this, like everybody on the beach in the water. A rumble of thunder comes and everybody runs I'm like, but y'all already in the water. So what's the difference if rain comes, whatever, but it never came.
I think they may be afraid of lightning.
Yeah, that too. But it was beautiful. And, I love the water. So being able to just open my patio door and hear the waves and listen to them and be at peace and recenter myself, right? And hear my voice in my head instead of the gazillion voices that are always sort of coming at me every single day was my gift to myself. And what I now know in order to balance all that we have to do is I have to continue to be vigilant in scheduling that.
Yes.
That cannot be ad hoc. That cannot be haphazard. I got to schedule it.
That's right. Self-care is not optional. You cannot care for other people if you're not cared for. But that's one of those things that sounds really good, and then you have to actually do it.
You got to do
right?
it. Yeah. It's hard for people like us.
I think about Detroit, though, right? And what does this have to do with Authentically Detroit? But this is an authentic Detroit conversation because if you're a Detroiter, you're no stranger to trauma, loss. If you're a human being, you're no stranger to trauma and loss. But I think about so many things that have happened over the past few years in our city and how many people have been in those situations. Now, on your end, you need solitude because you are like one of the most sought after people in Detroit. Ooh, we're having an event. Who are we going to get to MC it? Orlando, right? Orlando, he makes us feel good. You're a person, you're an uplifter. We were talking about you. We had an ECM reunion yesterday. You could not make it.
I missed it.
But you didn't miss it because we were talking about you like you were there. It was like, oh my goodness, we'll just bring Orlando into this room. And we talked about your gift in caring for other people. So that's a you thing, right? But a lot of us, what we also need is connection. So after that solitude, that connection, that social cohesion, that sense of community, that sense that I'm not in this alone. And for me, it's that piece. Every time when I came here, the Monday after that happened, I came here on the lowest of lows, and I'm sitting here talking to people. And when I got done, I walked out. I almost floated out this building. I felt so good because of the love and the inspiration I was getting from everybody in that room. So I think you need both, right? You need your time for yourself, for your self-work, but you also need your time with your people, not just to give, but also to be in communion with our people. And so I just want to also say that communion is what the Stoudamire is all about. It was established to be a place of healing and togetherness and people coming here. And the whole value is if you come here, I want you to feel better when you leave than you did when you walked in. We're not trying to come here and make it feel so serious. I want you to feel like you can cure cancer and,
all of the things
and traverse high buildings. I want you to feel better because there's so much about life that beats us down. And so I'm really happy you're back.
And this place breeds audacity. I'm trying to tell you, I feel like I can do anything. And that comes from growing up here.
That's right.
From childhood to adulthood and even growing up in my career.
Yeah, I was, so I don't know if I told you this, but this is a funny story. And I told her I'm going to keep telling the story. I was at Legends, Coney Island with Maggie DeSantis a few weeks ago. And one of our colleagues walked in with this woman, and she looked at us and she says, "You must be mother and daughter." Talk about Maggie. I know you get this all the time. We're like, nope, we've never gotten it.
Never gotten
you
that.
Look just alike. So I call Maggie mommy now. I get so much intense joy out of that. But really, in a sense, Maggie helped to pour into all of us. And so in some way, she did help mother us. In her Maggie way, okay?
In her Maggie way.
In her Maggie DeSantis way. And we got all kinds of jokes about that. But in her Maggie DeSantis way, she helped encourage us and helped cultivate that courage. And helped cultivate that willingness to speak out. That's why we named a Truth to Power Award after Maggie DeSantis, because whatever you have to honor a woman who has never been afraid of any battle and will always go to battle for something she believes in, and when it's you, she'll go to battle for you. So
and she passed that on to us.
She did.
We are unabashed, unbossed, and unafraid to say the thing.
Exactly. And I give my parents, I give my grandparents a lot of credit.
Absolutely.
But then you go into the workplace and you say, okay, what kind of workplace can deal with a person such as myself? And the ECM board, the ECM board has been phenomenal. I just have to say, wow, what amazing people there are on the ECM board. I love our board. I love our staff. I love our community. And so ultimately, love is what brings us together. I know that sounds really corny, but that's what it really helps lift me back up.
I really believe
love.
that.
And remembering to act in love, not acting in anger. I was spending so much time mad at this man and wanting him to be punished and held accountable. But when you are spending all of your time and your emotional energy is directed towards anger, you're not productive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, Jeff, you handle this so I can go back to being me. Because me is not angry all the time.
Yeah.
Now, I did go to Chase's birthday party, and I was like the biggest killjoy at the party. Even I could see it in myself. I was like, Kevin, I'm not talking to anybody else because all I could talk about was the crime. People are like, I'm seeing tears on my eyes. I'm like, this is Chase's birthday. This is not the forum for this. Sometimes you have to just laugh at yourself and go home, girl, and take care of yourself so you can be out in public because you are not fit for a party. I should have been in Fort Lauderdale with you, Orlando.
Right. The white sand beach, it'll do it for you every time. And I read a book. Donna, I still do, but not at the rate that I used to. I used to inhale books.
Me too.
Right. For pleasure. And, work and career and busyness sometimes inhibit that ability. And I like Audible, but I love a physical book.
What did you read?
I read When Crack Was King by Donovan Ramsey.
Oh, wow.
And number one, he's a journalist. And so I love how he was adding to a record and really setting the record straight on one of the most underreported, understudied epidemics in American history, because of course it disadvantageously affected swaths and swaths of Black folks. And in our communities, I mean, there are certain areas in our urban cores, including the city of Detroit, that are the remnants of what that epidemic did.
I mean, crack did more to harm our community than COVID, AIDS.
All of it.
Heroin,
but what he
everything
did,
put together.
What he did was he used his journalistic instinct to put people first. And so he profiled people who lived it, who had families and parents who became addicted, who were addicted themselves, people who were trying to enact policy around that time, and used their stories as the front page to this backdrop of all of this stuff happening in America. And of course, he because he's a journalist, he pays a lot of attention to the narrative and the covering of the crack epidemic that demonized Black folks, as well as the narrative that came out in legislation and the term super predators and the 3 strikes rule and all of that. His prose was so accessible and so palpable and powerful, and his scholarship was equally as powerful. So I made a promise to myself that I'm going to do that more. I got to read. I got to carve out time for me just to read again, because it brings me so much joy.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It brings me so much joy.
I mean, my nickname used to be Reader, and I still try to read, but it's so easy to get into the point of, now before you were able to binge on Netflix, you had to binge on a book.
Right.
Now you can binge on Netflix. Now you have Audible, and you can drive somewhere, but the physical smell of a book, the feel of paper is something that you just can't replace with any electronic, and you can't lose yourself in a book in the same way in this TV show. So I'm with you. I have so many books I need to read. I have a book I have to finish writing, and my goal is to finish it by this year. And it's, I found that it's as immersive to me to write as it is to read. So as I'm writing, and this is fiction.
A good writer is always reading.
As I'm writing what I'm writing, some of the characters and some of the plot, everything is coming to me as I'm writing. And it's a very interesting process that I'm really glad I'm experiencing. So I don't know if anybody else will enjoy it I'm writing, but I'm enjoying putting these people into reality in my mind and putting them on paper and just thinking through some things through the lens of people, because I'm really trying to center Detroit's history through people who've been here since the turn of the century, through Black people who've been here through the turn of the century, with the idea of depicting people from all different walks of life. And my goal, if I'm successful, is to not demonize any group of people, but to show how we all struggle against the same monster that's racism, the same monster that is
Donovan
racial
made the same
capitalism.
point. Yep.
And so if we can keep our minds focused not on how much we dislike this kind of person, that kind of person, because, usually we find one group to demonize. Either we demonize people who we've decided are ghetto, or we demonize those people who've decided are elitist, or we demonize the church folks, or we demonize the, street folks. But what if we're all struggling to figure out and make meaning of life in Detroit? And also, want to also leave everybody with this understanding that Detroit is a great place.
It is.
And our history is a
The greatest
proud
place.
history. And so we walk away proud Black people. We don't walk away people. I don't want people to read this and see these poor people. One of the things I've seen is so many narratives about Detroit have been written by well-meaning white people who come into our city and see our victimization, but don't see our strength, don't see our greatness, unless it's Motown. They don't see the greatness of our everyday life, of our humor, the way that we're able to take life and turn it around in ways that are so creative. When I think of some of the top journalists in this nation who are getting recognition now, being Kat Stafford and Phil Lewis, and it's like Detroit showing up, telling stories and building that Black Detroit specifically, right, is showing up across the nation, across the world now with Kat. I want people to see the seeds.
You're invited. Come back on and talk about this.
We definitely need Kat back on, and we need Phil to come on the first time. Definitely Kat. I mean, I'm so proud of her. And she called us out when she announced her move. I was so moved by that.
In tears. Okay, you want to tell the story? I'll tell the story. Okay. So Kat Stafford, who was formerly at the Detroit Free Press, she broke the Make Your Date scandal and the lead poisoning and the demolition stuff, all of the stuff, right? And she went on to become the national race and ethnicity reporter for the AP, where she talked about, disparate health outcomes for Black folks, particularly Black women. That's a report that she just released. And she has elevated to the
global
editor of race and something else for Reuters, y'all.
Right.
Yes. And so she made the announcement, and we were all happy for her. And so on her first day, she puts together another post. It's a photo of her computer, right? She's getting ready to get started with her day. And she has an Authentically Detroit mug. And she said, I'm taking Detroit with me. Shout out to Authentically Detroit and Donna and Orlando for... I was just like,
right. I felt so seen by that. But, and part of it is that, when people talk about good things coming out of Detroit, it's the music, or somebody who graduated from Cass Tech, right? It's always that. It's like there are so many diverse stories and so much diverse greatness that has been, implanted in us by so many people across the city who graduated from schools, who didn't. There's this biography that's coming out with what's her name, Luna? Oh, I can't think of her first name. The first Black supermodel who graduated from the Detroit School of Commerce.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yes. It's going to be,
I always thought it was Beverly's.
No,
okay.
No. It's a Black woman from Detroit who took on the name. I can't remember her first name, but of course I remember Luna. But she was international. She was like the first Black woman to grace the cover of Vogue magazine.
Oh, amazing.
And they're doing a documentary on her, and she's a Detroiter.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many ways that we show up, and I just always want to exhibit that pride in everything we do, because we have our challenges, we have our trauma, but we also have our greatness.
Always. Like I was saying earlier, we carry it in both hands.
Yeah,
we carry it. So y'all got all up in our business, and it's fine. That's the goal of the podcast. Donna, what is going on with Mel Tucker at Michigan State University? Can I just say stupid? Can I just say dumb? Can I just say how dare you? Can I just say what's with what's with Michigan State, and why is this a habitual? What's the culture at Michigan State that continues to breed this? Okay, go ahead. This is so ridiculous.
I don't have any explanation, but I will say this. There's something very, very, very wrong with this man. And I'm glad he was found out. Because think about the psychology of somebody who would sexually harass the woman who shows up to help address sexual harassment and sexual violence against women on your campus and say, ooh, I thought it was mutual. Like, you're supposed to be teaching the athletes how to get in consent and what consent looks like. And he had a wife and children, sons. And what kind of example does he set?
A horrible one.
So if you're being sexually harassed by a man who has a wife and children, that can even be more traumatic than being sexually harassed by somebody, because there's also this suggestion that you are just, it's so disgusting. He said, I thought it was mutual. I thought it was consent. I cannot imagine the trauma. You know, you hear about these men who send dick pics by phone, and that's traumatic to a lot of women, okay? And what he did was he had added sound effects. I mean, come on now.
He had sound effects?
Well,
what?
He was masturbating on the, how would she know he was masturbating?
Oh, gosh.
You think it was silence?
No, now got to put an E on this episode.
You do, because you talked about Mel Tucker, but I'm trying to look at this through the eyes of a woman dealing with somebody who they thought was a colleague. And I think many people have been in situations where it's like, is this person flirting with me? Well, I don't know. They can't be flirting with me because, you know, my job is as a sexual harassment person. Clearly they know this. And then he starts sending her money and gifts and other kinds of stuff. And so he made her feel cheap. He made her feel violated. He made her feel every kind of negative feeling. And in his mind, he didn't even dispute it. Like, I'm not saying it would be better if he disputed it, but imagine doing all of this and being like, yeah, I did that, but it was consensual. And this woman has lodged a complaint against you. There's something very broken and wrong with him. And I think...
And broken at Michigan State.
And broken at Michigan State, which tolerates that. But also, this is a person who's supposed to lead young men. This is a man who has sons. And I feel so sorry for every young man who came underneath this man hoping for the kinds of things that young men hope for. I'm not going to talk about Bishop Sycamore High School yet. But all I'm going to say is that predators of young black men who help mislead them into engaging in negative behavior are the lowest of the low. I have no compassion for him, and I'm glad he's gone. He needs to be gone. I've never really liked his temperament. I've never liked anything about him.
I'm disgusted.
But yes.
And, you know, the other thing that I'll put out there to my fellow brothers who have a different kind of consciousness, I think it is incumbent upon us with a different consciousness. If we see another man being problematic, right? Call it out, right? Some of us got friends, some of us got family members that we hang out with, and we know they're problematic, and we don't say anything. Those of us with the language and a different consciousness need to step up and be like, bro.
And if you don't know, we don't always know when people are problematic.
Yeah,
sometimes we do, but if you don't know, don't defend somebody because you think you know. Who's the act?
It costs you nothing to be quiet.
To be quiet and let the facts roll in. But when you decide you're going to go on record defending people who, and it turns out they're indefensible, then that's part of what makes victims feel so victimized, is that people are defending the perp. And so I feel very badly for this woman. She has made it her career to try to reform campuses, and to have her violated and have her name out there in this way. And I'm guessing she had to put it out there because she figured Michigan State would do nothing, so she just went to the press. You know, you don't go to the press and put your name out there if you think it's going to be handled. They sat on this for 9 months, and she decided, you know what? Here's who I am. This is what happened to me. And again, I think she did that because she felt like it would be swept under the rug. I don't have evidence for that, but quit being a predator to women. Quit modeling predatory behavior to young boys and men, and quit exploiting all of the above. We don't need that in a football program or any kind of program.
Stupid. I'm so
yeah, but you can look at him. He doesn't even look nice to me. He just has that kind of evil demeanor. Yeah, and you know, when the fight took place in the tunnels between Michigan and Michigan State, this is the coach who was coaching these young men when they engaged in that. This is the man who somehow made it seem okay to use aggression to deal with a sense of frustration. It was never okay. And I'm not even saying that as a Michigan fan. We can't teach our young men that aggression is appropriate outside of, you know, the football field, which is an aggressive sport.
It is.
But it's important to also teach people restraint and how to carry themselves with dignity and honor. And I don't think he's done that. And so sorry for my Michigan State friends if I'm insulting you, but I don't know this man either. And
I hate to say it. I hope it don't sound ridiculous. I don't know who this man is.
But I do know that I have not ever really felt a connection to him in the same way that I do Coach Prime. Now, he's not perfect.
Man, y'all can't tell me nothing about Deion Sanders, man. Listen, y'all can't tell me nothing about that, man. And his son who got up on the mic and was like, I don't got no respect for that. You talk mad junk, right? And was disrespectful. And now you want to, nah.
What did he say?
Say that energy.
He said, I scored a record number of yards. I got 512 yards. And in this record, I got more yards than I did in HBCU. How about that? Or something like that.
With this grill in his mouth. I'm like, that's his dad. He's Deion Sanders' son for sure.
Oh, I see. I heard it. Didn't see icy. The grill. Did not see the grill. But no, I'm super proud. I think too. So many black people are just proud of seeing this man who everybody doubted, like Coco Gauff, another one.
Go Coco!
Oh, listen.
She said, I want to thank everybody who doubted me. And listen, y'all, we ain't been here in a minute. So much stuff has happened. Go Coco. And how about the Detroit Lions opening the NFL season with a defeat to the Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City.
I know, right?
Right? My homie was like, I got one question. Who next?
You know what? The funny thing is, you know, the Italian stallion, Mike Tirico, is like, oh, don't get too happy about this. I'm like, who trusts this man's judgment?
Right.
He looks in the mirror and can't even tell he's black. How can I take him seriously? Okay.
I ain't taking you serious. And then we Detroit, we gonna celebrate this,
and we are going to make fun of the fact that you are Mike Tirico because Detroiters don't have respect for people who say things and behave like that. No, he was ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Oh my gosh. And we were visited upon the amazing Afro Nation Festival since we've last convened.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Did you go?
No, I didn't go. I didn't go. But, you know, like I said, there's a lot going on, but it looked amazing.
It looked beautiful.
We looked so proud gorgeous. Of us. Oh, my goodness. Afro Nation. That's right.
Right.
You know, what gets me excited is like Kat Stafford's role, the global editor of Race Justice. I mean, we're going to start talking about the diaspora again and remember that we are connected to black people all over the world. We got cousins
everywhere. We black all over the world.
Jermaine Jordan said that the difference between black people and Jamaicans is where the slave ship stopped.
Yep.
But, you know, the same thing is in Puerto Rico. Same thing is in the Dominican Republic, in Haiti, in Brazil, in Bermuda, in Argentina. Slave ships stopped all over the Americas, and we're all over the place in the Americas. But when we connect with each other like that, and we say we are global, we have these global connections and this global ethnicity that all stems from Mother Africa, no matter how many plantations or forced labor camps we worked in between then and now, no matter what we dealt with, there's a portion of our legacy, of our history, of our ancestry that has been preserved so that when you look at people in other places, you see yourself.
That exchange is our power.
Right.
Our vibranium, right?
Yes.
I was in Fort Lauderdale and we had like this closing circle. And what they did was they had us physically interlock with each other. And nobody has said anything. But when we locked with each other, my spirit began to just leap. I'm like, oh my goodness, just from locking with my brother and sister, there is this exchange of power and love from that physicality. And what I saw from the pictures and the videos of Afro Nation, us being in community with each other, dancing with each other, hugging on each other. It was just a sight for sore eyes,
It
for
was.
sure.
And I also want to talk about the World Championships, right? Sha'Carri Richardson came back and redeemed
Come
herself.
on!
And then, Sha'Carri had conflict with some of the sprinters from Jamaica, but they were posing with pictures of each other, and she honored, I think, Shericka Jackson and Sally Ann.
Don't start me line, but yeah.
I can't think of her last name. But she honored them. They honored her, and I was like, look at the United States and Jamaica holding hands with flags, and we're able to support each other. I thought that was absolutely the most beautiful redemption story I've seen in a while.
I appreciate how she is handling the white gaze, right? Who wants to question her and talk about the past, and she's just like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. Y'all do what y'all want to do.
But one of my favorite sports moments in the world was when she pulled up to the starting blocks, snatched off that red wig, threw it to the ground, and let the world see how truly beautiful she is. I was like, girl, that red wig was covering up all that beauty and strength and fly and swag. And she got out there and did her thing without a wig. She understood, I am enough. I am what God made me. And so, it's like watching somebody come into her own. I like to see young people just do well. And the World Championships were Noah Lyles winning the 100 and 200, the first person to do this, for so long in the United States, but also just the whole community of athletes across the world, Black people across the world, because one thing about us, we are oppressed. Every place we live, we're dealing with oppression, but we came together for that.
We came together.
And we keep doing
together.
that. And I just think, when I look at Kat Stafford and her global gaze, it's going to help reshape news so that we don't think of Detroit as just being Detroit. I was talking to...
And it's going to reshape news. It's going to reshape and correct record. And it's going to reshape how we remember.
Yeah. I was talking to Darnell Adams yesterday, and he was talking about a report he saw in Johannesburg. I think he listened to it on the Daily. And he says, he's listening to the story, and he's like, wait a minute, is that Detroit? And I have, Gail Perry Mason took her mentees to Johannesburg, and all I saw in the paper was, on Facebook, that's a dangerous place. Those people are so dangerous. It's so ghetto. It's so violent. I'm like, what do you think they tell people from Johannesburg coming to Detroit? Okay, we cannot allow these narratives of danger and threat and not allow ourselves to really see ourselves as similarly human and see our shared culture. But he said he listened to this and he was like, wait a minute, this sounds like us. And there's stories all over the globe where what you hear about in our communities sounds very similar. We suffer from similar oppression, even though to a greater or lesser extent. But we also, again, have that umbilical cord of, ancestry that connects us if we are allowing ourselves to really thrive and enjoy it. So I think that Afro Nation piece was just the first of many, hopefully.
Yeah, we love Black people all over the world,
yes.
Detroiters all over the world. Shout out to Diana Ross, amazing Detroiter singing "Happy Birthday" to Beyonce in LA. That was cool to see too. Detroit everywhere, man. All right, we thank you, listeners, for your grace in our absence, but we back, and we're going to be back to our regularly scheduled programming after this podcast. But that's going to do it for us. Donna, you got shout outs?
I do. I want to shout out Daniel Cuffey, who is a member of our team, who's, I forget his staff title, but he's over our community organizing manager for community education organizing. And Daniel is the person who beautifully and, forcefully restrained the person who drove into our building and at his own risk. And use no more force than necessary. You can see it on the surveillance video, and I just watched it, and I was like, wow, I am so proud of this young, brave man. And so I want to honor him. We are going to honor him again. But I really, we owe so much to him for him really taking that kind of risk and it's got to be out of love, right? Speaking of love, I have to honor my girl, Kat Stafford, because, wow. What an achievement. I remember when I met her and she was working for the pre-press, breaking news and telling stories the way we wanted them to be told. And then she was AP, and now she's at Reuters. But, also as we honor people, we also have to remember to throw a veil of protection over them, because the bigger your stage, the bigger the audience is that's trying to attack her. And so I've seen some of the things that have been said to her, and I just want her to know we got your back.
Yeah.
We're here for you, and we thank you for representing us all so well.
Yeah, if you got a journalist friend, a comms friend, wrap your arms around them, because you, Donna, I can't even begin to tell you the kind of craziness we see. So, yeah, shout out to you, Kat Stafford, and shout out to the Because of You We Can folks for featuring our homeboy Phil Lewis, who's the front page editor of the Huffington Post. We actually had Phil scheduled to come on Authentically Detroit a few months ago, and I don't know how it fell through, but we'll get him rescheduled so that you all can meet the man behind breaking black news on Twitter, because he is a legitimate and respected journalist. If Phil is talking about it on Twitter, then you know it's sourced and it's true. And shout out to the Eastside.
Yeah. You know, Phil and I had took a class together when I was in grad school.
Really? That's crazy.
And so I'm sitting here at this table and he's telling this story. And, you know, Phil knows my children. And so he's telling this story about having worked for Teach for America. And when he got done, I said, "Are you Phil Cosby?" Remember that was his Twitter handle? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, you know, my daughter. And he says, "Oh, actually, I know all of your kids." So, yeah, we had a class together. And I knew him way back when he was just a person who was acting with great integrity and telling stories in such a way that I heard his story secondhand and could tell who he was just by hearing him tell his story in class.
And Phil is dope. I mean, you know, he takes in news from all over the world. But if you talk to Phil and you ask him his news sources in the city of Detroit, he's going to say this podcast. He's going to say Bridge Detroit. He's going to say Outlier. You know, like 3 local, hyper-local entities focused on our real stories, right? I love that about him. And he's not shy about sharing from Bridge Detroit or Outlier. It makes me happy. So I'm happy that he's being honored and seen in that way too. So shout out to all y'all. And that's going to do it for this episode of Authentically Detroit. We thank you for listening. And until next time, catch the wave.